Hello, happy Friday. I am sitting here waiting for Alpesh Chauhan, the conductor, to have a chat with him about how things are going in lockdown. So I'm just waiting to see if he has requested. That's great. And hello, Bernadette. Oh, people joining suddenly. So hopefully Alpesh will be here anon. I don't know if he's going to be preparing something lovely for lunch. Hello,
Hello.
it's worked. How are you doing?
Good, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, excellent. Good haircut.
Yeah, your hair looks great too. My God.
Oh, no, no.
All your comments yesterday.
It's, well, I've just managed to sort of get it into some kind of, yeah, well, I know first world problem, but I was very jealous when you said you'd managed to give yourself your third haircut.
It's
So,
crazy. Just got desperate, and I just thought, you know what? You just have to do this. I mean, it grows at a rate of lightning. It's crazy. So yeah.
well, it looks fantastic. And
Oh, cheers.
just wanted to say, first off, congratulations on the fantastic news, which only came, what, three days ago?
Yes, on Monday. Yeah,
Yeah, musical
yeah.
director, Birmingham Opera. That's really,
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. It's really exciting. Actually, they're such a great company and what they do. It's just so exciting to be involved with that kind of an institution.
mhm. And have you worked with them a lot? Are you based up north?
So up north, people calling the Midlands up north.
Up north.
Right, yeah. No, yeah. So I'm based in Coventry, so in the Midlands.
Okay.
But my family and lots of friends are in Birmingham, of course, where I grew up. And I only actually worked with them once at the Birmingham Opera Company last year when we did Shostakovich's Lady Macbeth. Um, but it was such a great project. And before that, I'd assisted or at least been assistant at the CBSO to watch what they did. So I'd seen a few operas like the Tippett Icebreak and Covancina as well that they did in the last few years. So I sort of grew up watching the company, and they use the CBSO, of course, the orchestra, which I grew up alongside in Birmingham as well. So yeah, it was just it was a success of the project, but also the passion of what they do that I just thought was so exciting because it's the combination that Graham Vick, the director, is so inspirational. But the way he brings together the professional orchestra with the CBSO, the professional international soloists, um, and then the community chorus and the community actors who are formed from all sorts and all walks of life. You know, teachers, some people who are struggling in life, some people who are policemen, just people who in all sorts of different jobs coming together and teaching them an opera without any music and just teaching them through memory. It's incredible what they do, actually.
Yeah, it's great to
Yeah.
have something which people might never have sort of thought would be really for them.
Yes.
Don't know why I've just disappeared, but
Yes, you've disappeared. Yeah.
I know I think I just pressed something, but I will
Uh,
just turn myself back around while I say to you. But I think to have community projects where people are able to take part in something they probably never thought would be remotely in, that they would be remotely interested in.
yes.
And, if you actually said to them, I want to be, in an opera or something.
Yes.
Yeah, like, I think
Yeah.
to have that is a really special thing to bring in the community. I'm
Sure.
just sorting myself out.
Yeah, yeah, you've gone black.
Carry
But I
on.
mean, but the other thing I think is the audience as well, because I mean, the way that Graham Vick does the operas with Birmingham Opera Company is to have the orchestra, of course, in a fixed position, which in various years has differed from behind the action, in front of the action, in the middle of the action, in the round. And then he has all the action with the choir, who are formed of all the community people,
Mhm.
and the actors and the soloists, all around the public. So the public, when they walk in, are immersed into a live set. So they have no idea who around them is the chorus or who around them is an important, famous opera singer as part of this production, which just leaves people staggered, I think. I mean, I've brought family and sort of wider family to watch the Birmingham Opera productions in the
Mhm.
past, and they go away thinking we just didn't know that opera could be that exciting because they've just got voices from all around them and they've never been to an opera in their lives.
I know,
So
because
it's such a great way.
opera makes people think of something which is so not for them, or just sort of like warbly voices, but in essence,
Yes,
the telling of a story,
exactly.
and usually extremely real human drama that
Yeah.
people can have, you know, a total empathy with. They just
Yes.
see it as an art form which makes it, for some reason, inaccessible to their
Yeah.
citizens.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's more important that these companies and directors as well, artistic directors are doing things like this to involve them. You know, there's so much in our industry and so much fight back with phrases such as dumbing down and things like this. But with the Birmingham Opera, it's all done so seriously and so well and so convincingly, and there's no compromise on quality. I mean, Graham will really work with everybody until it's how he likes it, or how he wants it, or how it should be for an audience to walk in.
Yeah,
You know?
and has opera been a sort of big passion of yours? Because you're a fairly young conductor.
Yeah, so I mean, opera is quite it's a new-ish world for me. So I've done just a handful of productions. But it's something that I'm very excited to be involved in more. However, I say no a lot because, of course, my career has started and formed from the symphonic side of things, and I don't want to leave any of that behind because I just love, and that's where my heart is. But I would love to do, you know, two or three operas, or maybe just two even a year would be great because it takes up a lot of time as well, of course.
Yeah, the amount of
So to have a nice balance is nice. I mean, I love being in the middle of an opera and all that it is, but I love the symphonic side of things so much.
yeah, ideally
Yeah,
a great mixture
yeah.
of
Yeah.
both. I just wondered if it was something that you were drawn to in particular, or
No,
it's
I mean, in some ways, it's not so. I think I used to say this many years ago in interviews, but it's not so far away from the world of Bollywood, which is where my family sort of upbringings were from. Although it wasn't a musical household, it's funny that in a Bollywood film, which is of course their version of Hollywood, so it's what they all go to see in cinemas,
yeah,
always breaks down into dance and scene changes and costume changes halfway through a song.
yeah.
One minute they're in the middle of Beijing, and the next minute they're in the middle of Switzerland in some hills, in some mountains. So it's that kind of theatrics of that is not so far away, actually, funnily.
That's very, very true. Because we're used to that sort of that even in say Western cinema, that age of films where people would just burst into song, tell
Yes,
a story,
yes,
and then it sort of fell out of almost fell out of a sort of favor in a way.
yeah,
There were, you know, there were a few sort of resurgence of things like, you know, Woody Allen films, or even things
sure.
like Fargo and stuff. So I think I often hear people will say, "Oh, opera, no, that's, you know, not
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
kind of this idea,"
yeah.
and I probably even myself, when it's not something that is massively well known to me, I might sort of think, "Oh gosh, am I going to sort of understand that or
Yeah.
find it relevant?" But that's
And I,
great.
I, I think so many people are scared of opera as a genre, as a complete genre, whereas it's just so varied as the orchestral symphonic world is. You know, there's some repertoire that I don't particularly enjoy so much, but there's some repertoire I love. In the same way that when friends or relatives who have never seen an opera before and they say, I ask them, why do you not want to go and see an opera? And they say these things. I say, okay, well, try this opera or try that opera because I think that will be close to what you may enjoy. And there's such a world out there for people to. I mean, the opera world is as big as the symphonic world is. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It is yeah, well, I'm just thinking that
Yeah.
today I would have flown off to Aix-en-Provence for
Oh yes.
5 weeks of opera, which obviously
Gosh. Yeah.
not
Do you
happening.
know which operas you were due to do?
We were doing Wozzeck,
Oh,
and
nice.
also a new Innocence. It was a premiere. It would have been a world premiere by
Right.
Sarajevo,
Yeah.
which I think they will probably just be shifted
Yeah. I was
along.
going to say it's quite an interesting thing at the moment of whether people are going to rearrange things completely or if
Mm,
things are just all going to be pushed. Because, I mean, in your diary as well, but in my diary, I'm seeing things like premieres of works and,
Yeah.
you know, first performances. And you think, look, we can't do that in 3 or 4 months' time with a reduced band because it just won't work for the piece. So
Yes.
what we're going to do with those composers who've been commissioned to write these pieces. So I hope that they're all going to be planned
Yeah.
a few months down the line.
Yes, it must be heartbreaking to have, have a world premiere.
Yeah.
It's coming, and then for it to fall, and the sort of momentum you have for it. And as you say, our sort of the orchestras will probably look a little different for a while,
Yes.
are going to be a little bit shrunken, and
Yes. Yes.
I yes, we're not going to be able to play huge things with, singers and stuff.
Of course.
Sad. But have there been any particular things that have fallen away for you that you're really, really sad about?
I think everything. I mean, it's just because I mean, I know it's an easy answer to say everything, but there's such a varied output that we do, you know, and I think it's a nice thing about, I mean, in an orchestra, when you're a member like yourself, your weeks are so different from each other. You're not doing the same repertoire every week. You're not even doing a Tchaikovsky symphony within, you know, two Tchaikovsky symphonies within the same month, usually, even though they come up a lot. There's still varied repertoire. And I think it's the same for us conductors when we're visiting different places. We have such a varied output that actually you see something going, you say, "Oh, I was really looking forward to that because it was a chamber program, and I don't often do chamber programs." And
Yeah.
then another one, which is, you know, that was a huge program, and I was really looking forward to doing Leningrad.
Yeah.
So it's such a different balance of emotions with many different things that have been cancelled, actually.
Yeah, you're right. Because, yeah, for us, obviously we've missed from, say, mid-March, the entire rest of the season. And
Sure,
so varied from, working with Wynton Marsalis and
of course.
some really unusual programs with Simon, and just, yeah, you sort of think, oh no, I was really looking, I was like really looking
Yeah,
at that, or so, and you just think, gosh, I hope that kind of comes round again, because
yep,
sometimes pieces that you love end up being a bit few and far between, or even
sure.
people that you end up working with.
Yeah.
So it is tough
Yeah.
to
I
see.
mean, and another thing, I mean, with the rearranging conversations we're having now about, you know, upcoming programs, is things that you want to do, and then with string strengths and things, which will always be less. And orchestras ask, you know, we can still do this with this strength, but then you say, well, actually, for me, I can't really do that. So there's so many different things in the balance for rearranging things, because, you know, some people think that we should try and do as much of what we can do, but reduced. And some people think we should replace everything. So it's just such a mixture of conversations at the moment.
Yeah, there will be things which are so obviously on it. I've been, I obviously watched the LSO's live streams that
Yeah,
went out
yeah, yeah.
through the season, and it was very interesting to see some pieces, which one of the very last ones was Walton One, and
I love Walton
so
One.
yeah, one of my absolute.
Yeah.
As I watched it, I thought, gosh, I can't imagine doing this as a reduced
Yes.
formation. It's a huge orchestra for huge
Yeah.
scoring, and it made me very sad, because I thought, this is the music, which this sort of repertoire which really is my kind of favorite. This huge sounds, and just seeing a full orchestra on stage like that,
Yeah.
and I was a bit like, oh, when is that going to happen again?
Gosh. Yeah.
But more things are opening up as we see. With,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of I get a lot of confidence by seeing what's happening on the continent as well. I mean, Instagram this week has just been full of friends in France, Italy, and Germany, all starting up again.
yes,
And it's been really nice to see. I mean, it's sad in many ways because we're not even thinking about that in this country yet because of what's coming from on high.
yeah,
But keeping that aside, because that only depresses us to just keep going on about that. It is quite positive to see in other countries what's going on and how they're getting there, and how they're, you know, photos of different orchestras and how they're applying the new rules and this new normal to our field. It gives me some hope.
yes. I think
Yeah.
that's so important, because for a while, when there was just nothing happening and everyone was like, where are we going to go from here? But for us to actually get a chance to see what's going to work for orchestras, and possibly what isn't, or then things that no one ever thought about, like arriving and being backstage, and how
Yes, yes,
get to go and
yeah,
get a coffee or go to the toilet, and all these things, that it's not all about what's happening the moment everyone
yes, yeah.
on stage. There's actually so much involved for staging, and the people that organize that. I
Mm.
don't see them that. I
No,
mean,
no. Well, I'm hearing from orchestral managers who, like, are planning their stairs on and their stairs off. So there's only one way of travel on and off the stage, things like that, and individual practice spaces or warm-up spaces. Before we can have audiences as well, I've heard some people thinking about using the front of house space, which we never thought about, of course. And someone mentioned it to me the other day, and I thought, what a fantastic idea, because you've got all this front of house space that isn't being used. It could
yeah,
all be used for individual warm-up areas. We just need the government to then take it up and allow us to start this.
yeah, the chance to start. I know, because it is, the longer it goes on, the harder it is for, I mean, so many arts organizations are obviously struggling under the,
Yes.
immense pressures of not being able to have any kind of money, come
Mm.
in, and if you can't put on things, and of course the debate whether the amazing online content that a lot of organizations are putting out should in say some ways be monetized, or is it
Yes.
be giving it away for free, because
Yeah.
I'd say that in this country concert tickets are pretty good value.
Yes.
I'd
Yes.
like to say,
Yeah.
but it is a bit it is difficult when you say, you're putting out stuff that is, good quality out online, and people are going to get very used to having free, free things. And, do we find a way to monetize that, or is it just a stopgap before we can actually be on stage again?
I mean, at the moment, I think it's serving our audiences who usually pay our bills and pay our tickets and pay our rent and all of that stuff. It's when I was in with the job that I have in Parma, had in Parma, um, the over the lockdown period, there were some initiatives, like some of the orchestra phoned some of the people who are at home, some of the subscribers, just as a surprise, just to say hello, how are you, are things okay, and that kind of thing. And I joined in as well, and I saw this happening, and I thought, it's a nice thing to do. And I know that some people think, well, it's difficult to just keep doing things for free. But actually, this is really important, that we look after the audience and we care for them, because they're going through exactly what we're going through. They're all locked at home, not able to do anything. And at the end of this, the audience will remember whether their orchestra, their musicians that they support, that they really feel invested in. Because
Yeah,
for us, we go in and out of the concert hall, but these people really feel like part of a family.
that's
And
good.
they'll remember that afterwards, that, that our orchestra stood by us in the times where our mental health was so down,
Mm.
and so bad. I mean, it's part of the thing about the football starting as well. If you see, I mean, I don't like sport, and I don't watch sport other than Wimbledon. I like Wimbledon,
Yeah,
that's it. But just to see the amount of sort of mental health positivity that's come just from it starting yesterday, that people are so happy. And of course, it's something that I don't, what's the thing? I don't buy into it. I don't buy into sport. However, I completely understand how it makes people happy, and how watching these games, it really gives them something at home. I think as musicians, giving these free concerts and things like this, it's not really free. I mean, there's so much value in that will come back to us when we open our doors and when we need people to come back again.
yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And it makes me think of, I mean, every time we had, for example, an LSO live stream, which went out twice a week, I went onto the YouTube chat, and
Mm.
it was so lovely to connect with the people,
Yes,
because often people would say, "Oh, I was actually at this concert," and you think,
yes,
wow, that's just amazing. And then people were talking about, obviously some people were tuning in from abroad or had seen us abroad, and things, and it certainly made people say, gosh, I'd love to see the orchestra live, I can't wait until,
yes.
I'm going to make, and also to have made this kind of personal connection with people. And people asked questions, they'd often say, oh,
Mm.
is this a really stupid question, but and they'd ask something about the orchestra, and you say, well, look, there are no stupid
questions, so please do ask what you want. But I definitely think in a way, it has made the barrier between the musician and an audience a bit smaller, because we have had the chance to actually um, speak to sort of people online
Yes.
in a way, and
Yes.
I enjoyed that. And people have said, oh, when we come to the concert, we'll wave and all this, and I'm like, let me know, and it would be so lovely to see you, because yeah, these people, and then they would say, oh well, it's sad because obviously we've just stopped the streams because that would have marked the end of our actual season at the Barbican, and then,
Yes.
oh, this has been such a sort of a staple in our week, twice a
Of
week,
course.
watching the concert and engaging with players. And
Of course.
in a way, I just hope there's a way that I can, well, not me specifically, but to continue doing that even once live music starts. Because if you say, if these people stick with you through
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
difficult.
I mean, there's so much of people as well saying that, people should just come to live performances. And of course, it's more exciting to see it live. But for some people, it just means more exposure. If they're able to get it at home, it means that they'll be even more invested in it. It's not about being lazy or anything. It might just be the rhythm of their lives or the busyness of their lives, that they can't get out all the time to watch concerts. So I think the online streaming thing is so valuable to people, in the same way that there's online streams of football or there's online streams of rugby. I think it's really important. Mental health is served by so many of these things, these sectors, whether it be sport or music or dance or ballet or cinema or whatever. They all have, I think they share value. You can't say that one is more than the other, but definitely music and classical music has lacked in being able to have that exposure on TV and on streaming services, and that's really grown in the last few years. And thank God, because in lockdown, all these processes were there, they were in place, so people could then start streaming concerts live. Could you imagine if there was a situation where none of these streaming services existed, and then we had lockdown? That would have been hell.
Yeah, and I think it's something that came up in the chat I had with Scott Ellaway, in that in a way, it's made classical music and arts leap forward faster than we would have done organically, because
Yes.
we just had to. That there was just, everyone had to sort of get their real creative thinking caps on.
Mm,
Think, how can we still bring quality and education also, which is a huge part of
of
many
course.
organizations, to people when they're just at home. And I very much think that even when we're back, even, if one day we're back playing huge,
Sure.
Mala 9, and the concert halls are full, I still think that um this is still going to be a really important part of creative
Of
organization,
course it will.
because
Of
there's so
course.
many. It made me realize how many people are interested, but say they can't see the orchestra they want to, because they don't live anywhere near, and they still want to benefit from having a part of it or learning something through it. So I think everything that we kind of push into it now is really not just a sake of, well, this is going to be a sort of 6 month window
Mm,
of, we'll remember it as being, 2020 and when we
yes.
go out. But I honestly think it's something that actually will continue to rise.
Yes. Yes.
We can reach, we play to thousands of young kids every year that come
Sure.
coach loads to the Barbican, and that's great.
Sure.
But we could reach so many more if, it was possible to have a really, really exciting, great digital platform. And
Yes.
that,
Yeah.
surely that's kind of what it's about, I think.
There needs to be so much more of this kind of joined up thinking. I mean, there's one project I was involved in, which I will never forget, is the BBC 10 Pieces project, because it was just addressing something that, I mean, should have been addressed by the government, but in the end, the BBC took the helm. And the idea of putting a film with so many different styles of music, with famous actors involve the kids, and to do it all for free. And there was, by a couple of months after it was released, I think half the secondary school kids in the country had seen it. And from that, you're going to get some people. In the same way, if you are having more of these digital services for all ages, there are going to be people at the end of it who will stick with it. You know, if it's all about exposure and making sure people have the chance to enjoy what we do, rather than be scared of it, like we were speaking of earlier with the opera. We've got to give people the chance to actually enjoy it.
Yeah, because if you don't even have the chance to get any exposure, you'll never know. And even if it means that, you know, you play something to 100 kids and if 5 of them say, oh, I'm quite interested in this, or I want to learn an instrument, then that's still 5 kids that
Exactly.
piqued their interest. And
exactly.
you know, it's never going to be a case of everybody being interested. Like, you know, it's like you say, I'm not into sport either, and you could say, you know, I've been to football matches. I thought it was like a concert. I thought it was quite nice. I thought it was sitting there nice and quietly but actually it was like a cacophony of sound. So you know, you know whether something is kind of for you or not. But I would, you know, I just think the more people that are exposed to the idea of classical music, and rather than just saying, oh, classical music, no, that's not for me.
Yes.
And like, why would I want to sit through 3 hours of an opera warbling away and stuff?
Yep.
And when you actually try and explain it, say, look, well, the basic story is this.
Yes.
They're like, oh, well, you know, and it's sort of, you can sort of relate, because it's usually about, you know, love, somebody, you know,
of course,
somebody in the back, sort of,
an affair, and then they get back together again,
and also that if it's in a foreign language, you're going to have subtitles, you'll be able to follow the
yes.
story. It will probably look beautiful because, you know, of the sets and stuff. And then,
yes.
and it sort of means more, and people say, oh, okay, that sort of breaks it down into something they can understand. So I don't think, you know, I mean, I think, like me, it's this lockdown process has been very difficult for our profession, but I hope in a way lots of positives can come of it, because I think you know, there's no point in just thinking, well, life would just stop.
Yes.
We actually have to keep something moving and look at it in a positive way. Are there, what sort of things have you been doing to sort of keep yourself sort of fired up or even motivated?
Gosh, I mean, the first weeks I carried on as normal, studying wise, so I just kept going. And very quickly, after 2 or 3 weeks, I couldn't do it anymore. It was just not having anything on. I couldn't even listen to music. It got that bad. So I just stopped it all, and then discovered reading and started reading spy novels, which really sort of drew me in a different way. You know, and I realized I didn't read properly for about 13 years. So it was just nice to return to that and to find a new hobby, which actually now I know that I've promised myself I'll keep going with when things are back again. So that's been a nice positive, to find the capacity to just be able to just escape and find something completely different. I have got back to music now, of course, but I think it was just that middle period of the lockdown that there's so much going on, so much negativity, and it wasn't even helping. And then there's something happened about, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. I was just walking on my daily walk, and it lasts about, my walk is about an hour and a half, so I can usually get through 2 symphonies, maybe a symphony and a half. But I wasn't listening to music, I was listening to radio all the way. And then I just started listening to music again slowly, some Brahms symphonies, actually with Simon. And it just clicked, something went off inside my head, and I thought, thank God I've just got back again, because I think it was just that weird period in the middle that there's so much negativity. Everyone in our field is losing work all over. We don't see a way out, and we still don't see a way out because there's no help from the people on high. So we're just filled with these negative feelings. So actually, I've been really glad to sort of read a lot, grow my book collection, drink lots of coffee. Actually, I have a coffee delivery arriving today at some point, so I may have to run if the doorbell goes at some point. But yeah,
you know,
I get coffee delivery every month, which is it just gets me through. And cooking a lot, because I really, really love cooking.
Yes,
And
I love
it's,
cooking. I've seen so many of your lovely dishes on.
yeah, it's
Like,
just, it's a
wow.
real, I think it's a lot of it is because we always travel so much
Yeah.
and we're always eating things in different places, that you want to try and replicate it or try different things when you're home if you enjoy cooking.
Mhm.
I mean, cooking's always been a nice escape for me, actually. So, I mean, I learned very young how to make good lamb curry, well, all curries from my mom, which was very good. So it meant I was popular at university because I could cook lots of curry. And people in halls would know when Alpesh was cooking a curry, because a whole of halls from downstairs, no matter which floor I was on, you could smell the curry from outside. So it was one of those. Um, so yeah, no, it's been nice to sort of focus on those simple pleasures that you can't
Yeah,
often do.
time usually. I mean, certainly
Exactly.
a huge thing. The amount of
Yeah.
people said to me, because at the beginning we would start and we had well, I think pretty much every group in our orchestra has a WhatsApp group. So
Oh yeah.
so the first violin group, suddenly at one point we were just sharing all our meals. And
Yeah.
people were saying to me,
Yeah.
we didn't know you liked cooking or anything like that. And I said, well, it's more that we rarely have the time, because
Yes.
the sort of dinner would fall like when you're going to grab a snack just before you before you go to a concert, and afterwards it's a bit late, and
Yeah.
you just don't really ever, for me it would just have been something quick and convenient,
Yes.
and I'm not going to sort of go to the whole length of marinading and all
Yeah.
this. So suddenly with the time, it is nice to just have
Yeah.
a chance to cook something from scratch, actually from
Sure.
scratch.
Sure.
I did cook a curry actually,
Nice.
but a neighbour had to. I realised I didn't have any curry powder,
Uh,
but a neighbour put some into like a Ziploc bag and put it through my letterbox. Because I was like, oh no, because I hadn't been to the supermarket, so I was like, oh God, when am I going to get this? And then suddenly this sort of like, I was like, oh brilliant, thank you very much, and it ended up
yeah.
tasting very nice. I was very pleased.
Good.
But no, I think
Gosh.
it's being afforded. I think if we look at it as having a sort of gift of just
Yes.
having this little moment of window, and I've sort of said to people, and people have sort of been different, and this is what's been so interesting with talking to so many different people in creative industries, where some people have just sort of plowed on and been like
Yes.
motivated all the time. Some people slumped for weeks,
Yes.
anything, and I just think there's no there's no right or wrong, because
No.
I think especially we all need something. I do practice a bit every day,
Yeah.
just because I don't want the feeling of not of being all like by the
God, yeah.
back. But I do understand that when you have no actual goal, it's quite hard to sort of say,
Yeah.
you want to say, well, I need to nail this by in a month. If you're just playing for the sake of it, sometimes you just think like, why am I doing this? Are you?
It's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah. What was your? Are you an instrumentalist as well? What's your?
I was a cellist. So I mean,
Okay.
I mean, I did my undergrad on cello, and I still remember, if you had like, I don't know, a week without playing, it would feel terrible. I mean, when you go back to the instrument again, your fingers, I mean, the right hand usually always dealt with it, because you train your right hand to death.
Yeah.
And there's something about, I don't know if it's the same for you, but the right hand always used to feel fine when you got back to it. It took a little warming up, but it was okay.
Yeah.
But the left hand took forever. If it was just a week's holiday, to get the left hand back again was horrible.
I really hate that feeling, when you've been on a holiday, and I thought, gosh, if I don't play for months, this could be a
Gosh, yeah.
I mean, I did think about, this could be the chance for me to grow my nails and stuff, but in the end, I thought, no, if I just play every day for a bit, at least if something comes up and I have to play at the last minute, then I will feel in shape. And ironically, I found that I was playing better than I've played for a long time. I'm not, I'm able to hear myself all the time, and being in an orchestra, which...
And focus on private things slowly.
Yes, and I found out quite a lot of orchestral parts at home. Should I practice these? It is, Yeah,
John Williams is usually good because John Williams is usually quite crazy for the violins.
I know. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have got Hedwig's theme.
Ah, yes.
I found photocopies for that. So at some point, I obviously decided I needed
Yeah.
to actually nail playing that properly. But it's I don't know. I thought to myself, oh, I could post myself playing this, and
Yeah,
no, it's not going to happen yet. But
sure.
I
I
think,
mean, the thing that you're saying about just what to do in lockdown as well, it's so valuable. I was speaking to some of the awards for young musicians kids last week on a Zoom call, and one of the questions that they asked me was, "What do you advise us to do in lockdown, and what do you do in lockdown? What have you found to help?" And I know that there's so many musicians who are all advocating, of course, use this time. You can use this time to study really well and sort of develop and grow. And but I said, look, it may not be a popular view, but you do have to focus on yourself a bit as well. And I think that's what's been why you say that it's different people doing different things as well. That some people do study well and they manage to find that motivation even without any concerts down the line. But also it's important, I think, for musicians to not just be, we often have a reputation as being single-minded and just sort of tunnel vision, getting to that goal. But I think it's important that we catch a film now and again, we read, we get some fresh air, we just develop as human beings as well. And this kind of thing is so difficult. I mean, I mean, the LSO, you're touring all the time and you're working all the time. And when you're always, same with conductors, I mean, you're always going from place to place, from flight to flight, and you don't actually have that time to sit down and actually think, okay, what should I do for me? What can I do to relax? Or what can I do to just grow?
yeah, definitely. I think we're always on the move, and you stop thinking about anything outside of that, really.
Yes,
I mean, like
because you
you,
don't have time.
yeah, you just don't, and it almost feels like you shouldn't be doing that when you're sort of working, because there's always the next thing to be
Mm,
preparing for and getting ready for this. And I even to say the sort of individual practice for me is almost like I quite enjoy it, because it's the last thing I feel like doing when I come home out of
yes,
a day's work, because you think, I've been at the violin all day. Okay, it might not have been the greatest kind of playing, because of course in an orchestra you're not going to hear everything perfectly. But I thought, actually, this is a real nice chance to be able to focus a bit more on myself and my playing. And as you say, with reading, I mean, I can't live without having a Kindle on tour or something.
sure.
But I've suddenly sat down, and because I'm home, I can actually read proper paper books,
Yes,
which I
yes,
anyway. And I
yeah,
sort of really got into like autobiographies and biographies, which I've never really had much thought about before, reading about somebody's sort of life. But
yeah,
being able to say, oh, well, it's mid-afternoon now, I'll sort of sit down or go outside and
yes,
things.
yeah,
And I can't imagine a sort of having this feeling of luxury
yes.
of the time to do
Yeah.
that. And
But do you have this battle I mean, I have this battle in my head at the same time, because of course I feel that I'm growing as a person because I'm actually able to concentrate on things that I enjoy and want to do. But at the same time, there's a thing always at the back of your head, which is, when am I going to work and when am I going to do what I want to do? So it's a really strange feeling, actually. You go away a little bit mixed, actually.
yeah, and there's a sort of a guilt, because
Yes.
part of me thinks, well, I started learning Mandarin Chinese
Ah,
the end of last year before Christmas. So I did a kind of basic course, and it was, I was going to sort of continue it. And the idea was that when we get to mid 2021, which is our next trip there, I thought, I'll be able to
mm,
speak a bit of Chinese. And that's sort of all gone out of the window, because suddenly
gosh.
and I keep having this guilt of like, oh, I should be doing that, or I should be fluent by now. And I think we just have to kind of let things go a bit, because
Yes.
it's not the easiest situation to be in. I mean, we're all used to it. It's become, as you say, the new normal, and it's a shame that it is. But why not just enjoy it for the time you have.
Of course.
Enough worry surrounding the whole
Yeah.
thing, whether it's, financial, not being able to see your friends and family, and for me, not being able to actually physically make music with other people has been a really difficult, something I never ever would have realized would almost like hurt.
Yeah.
I think I'm back. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think then there has to be a mixture of keeping some level of being productive, because if I don't,
Yes.
I will just be like a vegetable on the sofa. And
Yeah.
I know what I'm like. It would be very easy for me to just sort of
Yeah.
not bother. So I like to have a bit of a structure, but I think, we also need to be able to have a good fun, like the evening that we had with
Oh yes.
Aaron,
Yeah.
Cargill, and Nick,
Yeah.
who put on a wonderful
It was such a great evening. A great quiz. It was
quiz.
hilarious. It was the most I laughed in the whole of lockdown. It was the happiest night I had in lockdown.
I think that was with all these musicians from their, and actually friends of theirs who were not musicians. So there was one question, wasn't it, about which composer was it the anniversary this year, 250?
Yes.
And all the musicians were like going, oh God, could it be any easier? And Karen's like, there are quite a few non-musicians in this group who are and then she's like, which deaf composer? I thought, at least I've definitely got a point here.
Yeah.
I think just being able to have a laugh and feel suddenly really connected to people.
Yeah.
Was,
and that's the thing of what we do as well. It's that connection, isn't it? We're playing all the time with people. I mean, I can't do anything without a load of people in front of me. And it's that connection that we miss. Exactly. So it's so valuable. I mean, I've been playing the piano a lot more, actually studying at the piano these days, because I miss the sound and I miss the feeling of sound. And of course it comes from just gesture and people reacting to your body and what you do, as a very, very simplistic way of looking at it. But actually playing the piano and actually being able to improve my piano skills a little bit and work things out a little bit on there has actually enabled me to actually make a sound, which is nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always wonder what instruments conductors play.
Yeah.
It's always interesting to me when I actually find out. And obviously, I mean, I was in youth orchestra with Daniel Harding, so obviously I knew him as a trumpeter first.
Sure.
Sometimes when you find out what instrument they're actually playing, you go like, oh, no wonder. Or like, or if you know somebody was an absolutely stellar violinist, every time they turn around, you start going, oh yes,
yeah.
I'm doing a lot of vibrato here. But it's.
I remember there's a funny story about that, but I can't remember who it was and which orchestra. But there was a violinist, and no, there was a conductor, and he was conducting at an orchestra, and the tempo was really fast. And he turned to the leader, and the leader was just looking perplexed. And the leader just said to him, "Look, Maestro, this isn't possible. We just can't do it at this tempo." They did it again, and he just couldn't do it again. So then the leader said, "Look, if you think you can do any better, then take it." But they didn't know that he was a great violinist. So the conductor took the violin, played it perfectly, and gave it back. And the whole orchestra was just like open mouthed.
Oh,
so yeah,
that's tough.
Exactly.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, there are quite a few really, really good violinist conductors. Well, you can think about doing the chat next time. You can just go move over and just like demonstrate.
No. My God, I've not played a cello in years. It'd be embarrassing.
Oh,
I'm
just imagining how that would have come about. But you said your parents are not musicians.
No. So my mom works in a bank, and my dad worked for many, many years for Parcel Force and Royal Mail. But it was just a teacher came in school. It's the thing about exposure again. So the first thing was that every school assembly in primary school, there would be music playing in and out. So walking in music and walking out music.
Okay.
And the teachers chose something different. And it was just a normal state school.
Mm-hmm.
And the teachers chose something different every time. So it wasn't always classical, wasn't always pop. It was just a complete mix, different things, just so we heard different things.
Yeah.
And then every now and again, there'd be an instrumental teacher come in and play something on their instrument to see if anybody was interested, to the whole school. So a cello teacher came in one day, and that same day I went home with a cello, which was quite crazy. So I remember my parents saying, "What is that?" But they obviously saw that something had sort of clicked in my
Yeah.
head, and there was some passion burning, even though I didn't know what it was myself. And they supported it all the way. So I was very lucky, because I know that a lot of people, for example, in my background, are sort of turned away from that because of fear, because the parents don't know what it is, and they don't know how it will go down, and they would understand much more if their son said, "I want to join the football team at school."
Mm.
So I was very lucky in that respect to have that support always.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And yeah, that's exactly how it should be at school, with
Mm,
the opportunities and just even the exposure that you have, some idea that, oh, maybe I could learn that instrument, or, that there's going to be a teacher and I will have the chance. Because, I mean, even if people don't, people that learn instruments, obviously vast proportions of them don't go actually into music. But
sure.
I just think that it teaches this incredible amount of, an element of concentration, I think, which then can go into anything in your life, and just a kind of,
There's so much to be gained from it. It's just,
yeah,
I mean, I wrote an article for Music Teacher magazine where I just went on and on about it, which is that, that kids are born screaming and singing and born running. And at some point, we see the obesity crisis in the country. So because it's a visual thing you can see, but we don't continue to address the mental health, which a lot of it is helped by things like music and reading and the arts that keep people happy and going. But you're right. I mean, music for teaching self-expression, which is such a skill that is lacking nowadays with things like social media. To harmony with other people, working together, also working hard to reach a goal, and actually having to, practice your scales for ages to be able to play this piece of music well. There's so many skills, personal skills and group skills, that are learned from or helped by playing an instrument.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, before I forget, we've got about 13 minutes. So if anyone's got a question for Alpesh about music, his cooking, his spy novels, do post it in the comments, and we will. I'll be able to ask any questions him. So how did the sort of move from cellist to Dutch
I
come?
think coffee just
Oh,
arrived.
your coffee's arrived. You go.
Sorry, but I can hear you.
I'll,
Keep,
I'll
because you're on
keep
headphones.
talking.
Keep,
Okay,
keep, keep asking the questions. Yeah.
what I wanted to ask anybody who's watching is, if there's anybody who would like to see me chat to, do drop me a line or post it in the comments. We have got Jasmine Kent Rodgman next week, a young composer. I have a friend who is a horn player and who has started a sailing business, and Elim Chan will be joining me at some point in the next 2 weeks as well. So that's just to say, if there's anyone that you would like to see me chat to or ask probing questions, do let me know. Okay, oh yeah, that was quick.
It's really quick. He just had to drop off coffee. I mean, it's a
Loads of coffee.
regular order. It's just, I get through so much coffee. It's just ridiculous. And I think it's all the time I spend in Italy that you get used to good coffee, and then when you come here, you actually have to just import good coffee in. So it's just, yeah, one of
I'm
those.
the other end of the scale. I can't tell the difference, and I only use coffee. Oh, this is going to sound awful, but I haven't really had to drink coffee because I only have it before rehearsal.
Ah,
I don't know
I
why.
wonder why.
It sort of gives me an extra sort of measure of being alert.
Sure.
But I haven't really, because I'm not doing anything that makes me so tired, or
Yeah.
needs such massive concentration whilst
Yeah.
lockdown. Obviously, I
Gosh,
really felt the need to have a.
fair enough.
But as I was asking you, was it a transition you made from cellist to conductor when you were at music college, or was that something you always
So
did?
I think I started waving my hands at like 16. So I was still at school. And I saw teachers and conductors of youth orchestras I was in conducting, and sort of grew this obsession with what it was. So got some early lessons, and then started some sort of more formal lessons with Michael Seal, the associate conductor of CBSO, who started me off really. And And then from there, I went to the Northern, but all the time that I was on the cello course, I was conducting at the same time and taking lessons and sort of getting friends together and doing charity concerts and things. It's something that Simon Rattle always used to say about if you're a conductor, you need people, of course, to be in front of you, and you need that hands-on experience. And sometimes the only way of doing that is if you do it yourself, because no one's going to hand you that on a plate. You actually have to go out. But the good thing is, if you're young musicians, your friends want to play. They want more experience playing. You want more experience to conduct. So it's quite easy to set these things up if you just put your mind to it. It's not very difficult. Just send out a few texts.
Yeah.
But also I was very lucky that my cello teacher, all through the Northern, so for my 4 years undergrad, was Eduardo Vassallo, who's the principal at CBSO. And he knew from the beginning that that's what I wanted to do. And he'd also seen me grow up, because in Birmingham, his two sons grew up in the same orchestras that I grew up in as well. So he saw us all sort of playing together. So he really understood. So in the cello lessons, he would tailor it to conducting and to orchestral playing. So he'd often speak about orchestral excerpts, or say, you know, Alpesh, if you play like this, then, or if you want this, then you've got to ask them to play like this. Or for a section to do this, you should try this kind of bowing. And so it was really helpful to just have that sort of guided view from a principal player of a UK orchestra.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's interesting, isn't it, that with teaching, because when I think about it, my three teachers were all actually, and then before I went to music college, were all primarily orchestral players. They weren't teachers. Sure. At one stage, I was the only pupil for two of those teachers, because they were proper orchestral musicians.
Sure.
Job. But then, you know, they happened to teach me on the side as well. And I went to Eric Grunberg at the Royal Academy, who obviously was a very, very famous sort of orchestral leader. So when you sort of pick up so much, so many tips and
sure, and
just about, like, I mean, I remember one of them putting sort of Leonora 3 down on the stand, going like,
oh God,
like, let's hear it, you know, like trying that the last pattern.
Yeah.
And they're going, you know, this is the sort of thing you're going to be doing, and stuff like that. So it sounds like you had excellent teaching, which was able to lift you.
It was really valuable.
Yeah.
And I mean, also, I mean, it was Eduardo who then, because at that time they had Andres Nelson's in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And Eduardo was just saying, look, what are you doing at the Northern this week? I said, well, I've got this on and that on. So he started saying, look, come this week to Birmingham, come and see some rehearsals with Andres. And back then, when you're young, you sort of, you know, paying for train fare and all that kind of thing come into it, and all this when you're a student. Mm-hmm. But you start it, and then afterwards, it just, you don't mind paying for all of that, because actually it starts forming you and starts building up that side of your passion. So I was sort of living between Birmingham, where my family were, and Manchester, where I was studying, and just constantly on the M6. But it was such a valuable period of time. I mean, I hate the M6 now, of course, but it was such a valuable time, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you can't, to have that kind of, you know, at your fingertips, to just be able to go and watch. Because I think actually going to watch rehearsals is probably a bit more interesting in a way sometimes than the actual final product.
Of course.
There's so much interesting stuff that gets said, or you actually hear change between, you know, when the conductor says something and, you know, we can try it 2 or 3 times. So I think it's that, as a young person, is, you know, we obviously offer for orchestral artistry students that they can come and listen to rehearsals. And
yes,
I always think, you know, gosh, if that had happened when I was a student at the academy, I thought that I can't, it would have been just amazing, but at least it's happening here. Oh, someone says, well, Twee Cup says, I remember knowing Alpesh,
Claire,
and then being conducted by him as a student at RNCN. I always knew that he had a future in conducting from that moment.
Old friends, Claire. Yeah, I saw her recently, actually, in at the Philharmonia when I was doing. Actually, it was my last concert that I did before lockdown. So I just arrived for a rehearsal and I saw Claire there. And it's really funny now, actually, when I arrive to places and you see friends that you studied with sort of just turning up at orchestras, and you get a sort of added pressure in your head, because normally you're going full of strangers, but then you see people that you studied with and you're like, oh my God. So yeah, but it's such a nice community when you
Yeah,
see your friends sort of
I
all
bet.
all around.
Feel very make you feel a bit more at home, because I always think, gosh, it must be quite scary for conductors to go somewhere for the first time, or if you don't, know someone, and you think you're just going to see 80 stony faces looking at you, but to actually look out and see people that you knew or you studied with,
Yeah.
quite.
They always say that it's friends and family who are the hard ones, aren't they? I mean, if you're having to conduct friends, it's quite tricky, because I mean, that's where you feel a lot of pressure actually, and sometimes having strangers is not a bad thing, because you can just sort of get on with it and just do what you do. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I definitely say that for auditions, because
Yes.
way easier doing an audition to a panel of people that you don't know and you might never have to see again. Whereas if you're auditioning for a place where, certainly when I auditioned for the LSO, I'd been playing there for 2 years as a student and as an
Yeah.
extra. So I was friends with some of these people, and I walked,
Gosh. Yeah.
oh my God, suddenly you feel this huge pressure and not wanting to let people down. So
Yes.
I know exactly what you mean. Someone says, June Sungpark says, congratulations again for your Birmingham Opera.
Ah.
That
He
must
was one
be
of the,
sticking in.
he was an assistant who helped when I was at BBC Scottish. He was one of the conducting students at the BBC Scottish who helped out. It's always useful having assistants, of course. But yeah, no, the Birmingham Opera thing is still so exciting. Of course, I can't say yet what our next big project is.
Yeah.
But it's such an exciting thing. I think it's anything that the musical level is so high, of course, but B, it's working with the community as well, and just the inspiration that I got and saw of these community people coming together who knew, they didn't even know how to read a note, most of them, but in the end they were singing one of the hardest operas out there. I mean, Shostakovich's Lady Macbeth. It's not easy,
Yeah.
and singing it all. And also it was in English, of course, so they had to learn it not from a recording, because there's no recordings in English going, as far as I know.
Yeah.
So they really had to learn it bit by bit with the amazing chorus director that's there. But aside from that, as well, as we said earlier, it's the audiences. I think it's so important to be addressing having audiences and getting new audiences, not for the sake of it, but audiences that will stay, that you can inspire to come again.
Definitely. And in our final 3 minutes, is there anything you'd like to share, or any piece of advice?
My God, it's like Jerry Springer's
Yeah.
word of wisdom.
Sorry. Just, or what you plan to do next in the coming weeks before.
No, I think just to repeat what we said earlier, that our lives in the music industry in the last few years have got even busier and got even more hectic. No matter where you are, if you're a soloist, a conductor, an instrumentalist, especially freelance players, you're always going from place to place, and being able to use this time not only to study, because we must study and we must practice and we must work for those jobs and work just to keep our skill level. It's important to also take that time for yourself, and that's something I didn't realize until lockdown happened, and I realized how much happier I could be by just picking up a book every now and again, and every day just reading a chapter or two, and just keeping the mind alive. And I think that's really valuable, and I don't think there's enough spoken about that during all of this. There's enough people saying study hard, but I think also there should be the advice out there to just focus on yourself as well a little bit.
That's great. I think I think we can all take a leaf out of that book.
Sure.
Been lovely to talk to
There
you.
we go. Yes, thanks for having me. It's been really fun.
Again. Again soon. Take care and enjoy your coffee.
Exactly. Thank you. Cheers. Take care. Thank you. Take care.